I'm joined by Gilgamesh Taggett. He plays Daddy Warbucks in the new touring version of Annie, coming to DPAC on Tuesday for 8 great shows. Gilgamesh, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm pretty excited to talk to you. I was looking at your bio. You, of course, play Daddy, and you've played Daddy before, right?
Correct. I did so for the last 2 Christmases at Beck Center for the Arts in Lakewood, Ohio.
Okay. Is that where you're from, Ohio?
That's where I've spent the last 14 years or so. Before that, I traveled around a bit, but I actually grew up in the country of Michigan.
Oh, beautiful country of Michigan. Well, my question about Daddy is that you played him last 2 Christmases, you said. Why is it that you think people associate Annie with Christmas? Because, of course, it's coming through DPAC and we're in the holidays again.
Well, the show is actually set near Christmas time, so that certainly helps it. And there's nothing better than a tale of people who are, especially in the winter depression that starts to hit people, and vitamin D deficiency or whatever else, whatever reason. This is a show about love and about hope and about joy and happiness and the indomitable human spirit.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned it's set around Christmas because as many times as I've seen Annie, and there are many between the movie and the show, and I think I saw it for the first time when I was like 3, I had no idea it was a Christmas, like set around Christmas. Isn't that crazy?
The movie was set, I believe, around the 4th of July.
Right, I don't even remember, but I know I've seen the stage show at least 3 times, and I couldn't remember. Isn't that ridiculous?
Well, that's I think says something about the show itself, that it transcends the holiday even, because it's very much about sharing, like with children, about Santa Claus, and saying it's the spirit of giving. It's not whether or not it's an iconic figure; it's what it represents. And Annie and the story being such an iconic story always represents that hope and possibility.
Well, it's funny, the American culture, right? You always look at someone who's going to be benevolent and you're like, oh, is he a bad guy? Is he going to take Annie for a ride? But Daddy is genuinely benevolent. He's genuinely happy to have Annie in his life. What's your favorite part of being Daddy Warbucks?
My favorite part is his journey. I mean, Annie is the character that is right off the bat inspired, and she's not going to give up, and she's going. But the person who makes the true journey through the show is Oliver Warbucks, because at the beginning, it's not that he dislikes children or doesn't want them. He's just so hyper-focused on being successful and rich that he doesn't even know what he's missing until it shows up.
And you always see him like transcend in different movies as well. Like I recently watched Escape to Witch Mountain with my stepkids, and the guy who comes to pick up the orphans looks a lot like Daddy, but he's nefarious. Daddy's a good guy, though.
Well, he was the bald head over the decades in various forms has represented, very rarely has it represented a good guy. I think Oliver's probably one of the first.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Let's talk about your different roles, though. I mean, you've done Oliver Warbucks, and you are a bald guy. Of course, I Googled you, and folks can see your picture on our Facebook page. They can grab the link to like us from radio961.com. And you've played other roles, which I thought was kind of hysterical when I looked at your bio, because you've played Oliver Warbucks, and then you played Billy Flynn in Chicago, who's this shysterly kind of lawyer. Yet, they're kind of the same part. They both have a big dance number. They both are very suave, charismatic guys, but they're totally different. Right?
I tend to have been cast in rather, whether they be charismatic or it's potent. There's always an intense role there for me. And Oliver Warbucks certainly is a steamroller of a creature. Billy Flynn also, he's the same thing, but he's also doing it from a schmoozing standpoint. He's doing it from a slow manipulation, and but I've always tended to be, casting directors and directors have been very fond of putting me in intense roles.
And you must be a very charismatic guy in an audition.
I try to be.
Well, I mean, everybody wants, you want to get a job, right? So
Exactly. Well, we are, at the end of the day, we are selling, an audition is just selling ourselves and our ability to do our job to that casting director, just as on stage we're selling an idea. We're presenting the audience with get to know this person. So you do tend to be a fairly open human being.
So speaking of get to know this person, I feel like during the show of Annie, you get to know, obviously, Oliver, you get to know Annie, and you fall in love with a lot of the cast. And when you look out into the audience, I know you can't see more than the first couple of rows, but do you see a lot of children singing along? Because it's so iconic, that show.
Oh, we've heard it. Absolutely. There are people that just can't help themselves and bring it out. We're doing a show here in St. Louis, actually, that is a kids' night, and we have every intention of hearing those children sing back. And some people just can't help themselves. I find myself, as many times as I've done the show and over the many years, I still hum the songs because they're so catchy and they're so easily remembered and well structured that you can't help but just join in.
I had the pleasure of interviewing the man who created Annie and wrote It's a Hard Knock Life and Tomorrow and all that stuff, Martin Charnin, earlier this year. He's a really cool old dude. Have you met him?
Oh, absolutely. He was our director, and he was very hands-on with me in the process of creating this Oliver Warbucks because it's a character, obviously, that's very close to his heart, and he knows exactly what he wants. He's a very focused and passionate director. But
he's so laid back and kind of awesome.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he was never afraid to walk over, just put a hand on your shoulder, and just talk to you and find out what's going on.
Yeah, he cracked me up because I was telling him how iconic and It's a Hard Knock Life and all that has been in my life for so long from my friends that were in theater or whatever. He was like, all right, sing it. I can't sing this to you. You're the man who wrote it. I can't sing this. And he's like, sing it, go, sing it. I was like, I can't do that. I froze like a dork. But he's just a nice man, and we talked a little bit about the remake.
Indicative of his personality because he is just so open and welcome. I mean, it's actually intimidating in some cases because he's so straightforward, but he's a real sweetheart of a person. I had a recent family tragedy, and I'm proud to say that Martin called me daily.
Wow.
To make sure that I was doing all right.
That's fantastic.
Said nothing about the show. It was just, how are you, honey? Are you feeling all right? And it was having that man in my corner, not just having the cast, but having his love and support really affected me as a human being and made me reevaluate my own openness and willingness to get to know others.
We're talking to Gilgamesh Taggett, Daddy Warbucks, in the production of Annie, who's coming to DPAC next Tuesday for 8 great shows. Gilgamesh, I bring up Martin Charnin and the songs because recently there's been some news about It's a Hard Knock Life and other songs in Annie as they've remade the show and the movie, really, to be re-released this year. And there's been some kind of controversy because they've changed some of the lyrics to some of the songs to be a little more reflective of the times. Have you guys heard any scuttlebutt on that? Like they should have left it as possible or left it as it was?
Well, it's I can totally understand why they would change something. Martin himself had said they're really just renting the songs, as it were, because the storyline has to change so much to modernize it. I haven't really gotten into the songs or heard them yet. I'm very supportive of the project just so that a new generation and a cultural width and breadth of this new Annie will open up, hopefully, the urge for people to see the original production.
Well, Quvenzhané Wallis, of course, will be playing Annie in the new movie version, and she's such a force anyway. She was great in Beast of the Southern Wild. But it was interesting when I talked to Martin and I asked you, he was at first railing on people who were not stealing his Annie idea, but like not licensing it. But then, and he was kind of like not happy with any remakes, but then was like, I'm all about the movie. And it's nice to hear you say you're supportive of the project as well.
Well, I'm always supportive of anybody willing to take a risk and take a chance. I certainly, my own personal preferences of the movie are going to have to wait because I'm so focused on this show. I haven't even gone and seen, there's a bunch of movies out right now that I'd love to go see, but I tend to stay very focused on our production because Martin's direction and Liza's choreography and everything needs to be just so at every production.
Now, you mentioned how you're so focused. Are you one of those method actors that stays in character? Are you always Oliver Warbucks?
Oh goodness, no. That would be I've heard a lot of stories, and I mean there are times when you kind of keep your focus in, and that's every professional has their own way of going about it. And for me, the joy of the show at times is the loss of self in being Oliver Warbucks on stage. That I can make decisions that are not, I'm going to make a decision for Oliver now, but in my own head on stage, I've got to convince myself as well as the audience that I am this person so I can react honestly to whatever's happening around me.
Did I ask you what your favorite moment was in the show?
Oh, yes, you did, and I somehow skirted that. I do tangents, I apologize.
That's okay. I'm just chatting too, and I thought I don't know if I asked you or not.
There are several, and very few of them are mine. There's the cabinet scene is one of my favorite scenes in the show. Those orphans doing their hard knock life number is unbelievably incredible. And I suppose my favorite part of the show is just showing up every day and seeing Beowulf for its amazing sets and the amazing people I get to work with, the talented group that is supporting the show. It's that showing up to see them, and then when we leave, seeing the kids and seeing their smiles and seeing the parents, even 40-year-old children as well as 10-year-olds.
Oh, yeah, because I'm right there with you. I know all the words to every song.
And that really is my favorite part of the show, is that when we're done, it keeps going, and that's amazing to me.
Well, I can't wait to see you in it. Next Tuesday, I'll be there, and I cannot wait for everybody else to check out Annie, which is coming to DPAC on Tuesday, December 9th for 8 great shows. Tickets are available at dpacnc.com. Gilgamesh Taggett, Daddy Warbucks in Annie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And come see me at the stage door when we're done.
I will. I can't wait. Take care. Thank you so much. Good luck with your phone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.